Hi, my name is Emanuela Girardi, but you can call me Manu.
Okay, thank you for being available. I know you are an AI expert before AI became super cool and everybody talked about it. So tell me about what happened this last week, I think, which is the European AI Act. Tell me how it works, when it will happen, what it contains, what are the impacts.
Okay, the European AI Act has been approved by the European Parliament on the 14th of June. And they pretend that it's the first global AI regulation ever approved. Actually, it was the first proposal for an AI regulation when it was proposed 2 years ago in 2021. But in these 2 years, it took them quite long to approve it, I have to say, because there has been a very long discussion. And it took them quite long to approve it. And meanwhile, there are other countries that passed some AI acts. For instance, China, meanwhile, they passed 3 AI acts, and Brazil also passed an AI act. So it is probably, one of the most important AI regulation in the world, but it's not the first one in the world anymore.
So it means that when they did it 2 years ago, it started without knowing what happened, I would say, since November, October this year. So they had to adapt it, change it, or you think that the basis or the foundation were the same?
No, they really had to change it, and this happened in the past few weeks, just before approval. So in May, they amended it, and they included the large language model. So they call it general purpose AI. And the precise wording that they're using is foundational model, and they had to include them because since they started a couple of years ago, ChatGPT, was well known by AI expert, but general public was not really using them. So it's only just since last November. So they really had to change it, and they amended it, and I think that this is one of the probably bigger limitation of this kind of regulation, because it's very difficult to regulate a technology. You should regulate the use of a technology, but you cannot regulate the technology because technology is today, especially today, is evolving so fast. The pace of technology evolving is amazing today. So probably now that they just passed it, but then when it will start again, probably it will start being used in Europe, it will be already old.
So can you explain me high level what is inside this regulation?
Yes, okay, so the regulation is a sort of horizontal regulation, and it classifies all the AI systems in 4 categories according to their level of risk. So there are the AI system which risk is considered unacceptable, that will be banned. And then there are the high-risk AI system, and for them it will be necessary to have a sort of certification, a sort of AI label. Then there will be the medium risk and the low-level risk, and for this there will be a sort of self-certification. So it's sort of an horizontal approach to AI, and I think that this is, again, it's probably another limit, because usually you should regulate a specific use of AI, of the technology, and not horizontally like the perceived risk of the technology. And if we think about the different level of risk, in the category of unacceptable risk, there are, for instance, the biometric, real-time biometric technology, recognition, like facial recognition in public, it will be banned in Europe, and the emotional recognition as well. It's a proposal, of course, it's not the final approval, but it's a proposal of the Parliament. Also, the emotional recognition will be banned. For instance, it will not be possible to use them in education, at school, for instance, to understand if some students are learning better, they're not understanding, or if we think about in predictive policing will be banned as well. And or if we go back to emotional recognition, another use could be, for instance, in HR. So you couldn't use them in HR or in health system and so on. And then another category of banned system, AI system, will be the use of social scoring. Also, social scoring will be banned in Europe. So there are, I think that banning something is very strict, of course, because it's really like limiting also the innovation and the development of technology in this area. So we should probably think about, I mean, a more modern, inclusive approach that also takes into consideration the possibility of investing in research and development.
But tell me exactly what is happening today. This is already approved, it has to be approved, will it work in each country? I don't understand this totally, so help me.
Okay, yes, it's very difficult. It's very complicated when it comes to European regulation. So this proposal approved on mid-June was approved by the European Parliament. The very first proposal was released by European Commission a couple of years ago. And now there is this process that it's starting, it's called the trilogue, and it's a sort of negotiation, discussion between on one side the European Parliament, on the other side the European Commission, and on the third party would be the European Council. So they will discuss because they have quite different position on some things, and so they will start a discussion, and they hope to reach a final agreement by the end of this year. But I think that it's very challenging because there are several topics on which they are discussing. For instance, just to give you an idea, the industry in Italy, in Europe, the innovation ecosystem in Europe, thinks that the European Act, the way it's proposed by the Commission now, it's too strict and could limit the development of innovation in Europe. And so there is a very strong discussion going on because, for instance, the Council, instead they would like to have it a little bit more softer on some areas to be able, for instance, for startups, for SMEs, to develop and to use AI system in a more flexible way, I would say. Because this is quite strict. There are some studies and they estimate that if you are a provider of an AI system, so the provider is the one that will have the responsibility of the AI Act and the liability as well. So if I am a provider of an AI system that it's classified as high risk, there are several studies that say that the cost of bringing into the European market such a system could be up to 500K, so 500,000 euro. So if you think about the startup, maybe, they're raising with the seed round, 1 million, and then if they have to spend half of what they're raising on the compliance of the AI Act, of course, it doesn't make sense for them. And so and there are also lots of venture capital that are already thinking, okay, they're saying, I don't know if they will do it, but they're already saying that they're considering investing less in the development of AI in Europe, especially in AI startup in Europe, due to this strict regulation.
So ideally, Europe should find a way to protect people, but avoid blocking innovation per se.
Yeah, this balance is probably the most difficult balance to achieve because on one side, we really need to protect people from the risk of AI system, but on the other side, if we don't invest in innovation, we will probably find ourselves in a sort of difficult geopolitical situation in the future because we will find ourselves dependent on technology developed elsewhere. And then we will probably find ourselves in a very similar situation like the dependency that we have today on the energy system. So probably that's
obviously, I have always operated in sport, media, and entertainment. So do you think any impact in my area for anything that we've discussed so far?
I do believe that artificial intelligence, since it's a general purpose technology, is really transforming, any kind of area or system or business area. So sport and media, of course, they will transform it a lot, I think. Today, interesting things that could be used, for instance, is if I think about the European AI Act, for instance, the AI system that could be banned or would be banned according to the proposal of the European Parliament. There is the biometric, the use of real-time biometric data in public. And instead, if we think about the next year in France, there will be the Olympics, the French government really wants to use facial recognition to increase security, safety during the Olympics. And so already using this system on one side to increase the security and the safety of people that who are attending the sport event. This could be a use. On the other side, if we think about the risk of, a bad use of this data, if there is a cyber attack or something, and this data are stolen, that could be really, probably, a high risk of violating human rights and so on.
And obviously, this sector is clearly a sector where content and creativity are crucial.
Oh, yes.
So, and I've seen that, a few months ago, I think every content and creative people was totally scared to be replaced by AI. I think more and more, as some tools like Adobe and others are showing the creative people what they can do with AI embedded in these tools, there is a bit more hope. What have you observed? I know you talk to a lot of people in the sector. So.
Okay. I think that the problem is that there is this sort of negative narrative on AI. So they say that they will come, they will conquer us, steal our job, and then some people they are even saying that they will extinguish human race and so on. But the point is that we should really use AI. We already use AI any day, but we should start using it on the professional way as well. There are so many tools that can be used. For instance, generative AI in content. It's not that it will replace the activity, the creative activity of the people, but it's a fantastic support. Like if we think that Microsoft called their system Copilot, I think that it's really like having next to us always a sort of personal system or a Copilot that can support us, doing what we do and reaching, can help us reaching our goal, in a much more effective and in a higher quality way, definitely. So I think that we really need to start using it, and we need to learn how to interact and how to use this system. They're still, they're not very easy, but we need really to start learning how to use them in an aware way in our, everyday activities. So any job, would benefit a lot, by the use of AI today.
But I can also understand that there is a bit of, if you want, people are tired of having to follow all these hypes. Like last year it was Web3, Metaverse, and NFTs. This year is AI. And every time there is quite crucial people saying it will change everything. I just heard the Google CEO saying it like 1 week ago. It will change every profession, etc. Slowly, it may be. Change completely, partially. Some profession for sure. A baker, maybe he will have a tool to understand, how to use the material, but that everything is completely changed. And it will take a few years. Maybe, we still have the radio. So I think everything will change, and AI can be clearly a big change maker in this. But do you think it will take a few years, many years to really have an impact?
Well, that's a difficult question, because if I think about, last November, that just the people, the AI experts were using ChatGPT, and today instead everybody is using it, and everybody's talking about it. So it is very difficult, to say how long it will take. I think that, at the moment, there is just a sort of democratization of AI. So all the people, general public, they started using AI, but they're lacking expertise in using AI. So probably what is needed to push the use of AI at every level, so on any profession, at work, at home, for leisure, in sport, in media industry and so on, probably we need a sort of, so this was a bottom-up approach, we need a top-down approach. So we will really need some policy, from the government, really, to strongly invest in artificial intelligence expertise. So really, to start teaching it at school, and I think that it's absolutely necessary on one hand, but on the other hand also to make it a sort of mandatory, for instance, at work, to do some upskill or reskill of the workforce. For instance, if I think about, a normal employee job, white collar, probably part of its activities can be automatized by artificial intelligence. For instance, making slides, taking notes, attending conference and then making notes. Now I can ask ChatGPT, to listen to the conference and to make a summary of the conference, or just the 3-4 points, or to write a report for me. Then of course I need to check it and I need to review it, but then it's a support. So instead of taking me like 2 hours, maybe it takes me 20 minutes or half an hour. So if we think about, the total activities that somebody is doing, maybe 20%, 25% can be freed somehow. And the point is that what do we do with this sort of free time? I mean, maybe, and this could be maybe a law or something that could be promoted by policy, by government, could be that dedicating this time that it's kind of freed by the use of artificial intelligence to a sort of retraining or upskilling or reskilling, really to learn how to use this technology in a better and in a conscious way.
Obviously, as you know, the sports and media ecosystem works a lot because of media rights or copyright in general. So IP of content is crucial. What are the risks? And there is anything in the act that is about copyright content or use of copyright content?
So this is one of the amendments that they did really a few weeks ago, just before the final approval, because they understood that they had to do something, to manage also the models like ChatGPT and so on, this generative AI. So they decided to introduce this sort of clause that if for the training of the model are used some materials that are protected by copyright, they have to be transparent on this, so they have to state it. The problem with this, which makes sense, I think makes perfect sense, it's still unclear if there will be a license or which model will be used, but they introduced this part, sort for protecting the material, for protecting what is already protected by copyright. But the point is that this will imply that the developer of this large language model would make their model open or transparent on the use of data on the data that they used for doing the training of the algorithm. But most of this model, of the developer of this model, if you think, for instance, about OpenAI, they don't want to disclose which training data they used. For instance, the last model that is using ChatGPT, so GPT-4, they never said which kind of data have been used for training the model, how many data have been used, and so on. And this, I think that it will be a big problem for them.
But one doubt I have is, shouldn't this be a global approach? I understand it's completely utopian, so the answer is already there. Tell me about what are the differences, if you see, from a global approach to US, EU, China, and what are the different approaches that you have seen?
Okay, so I think that there are three main models today, for artificial intelligence. There is the Chinese model, the American model, and then in the middle there is the European model. So China, United States are much more advanced on AI, so they started investing before, and they're really investing, lots of money. Then they are also investing not only, in research and in the private sector, but also they invest in computational power, they have lots of data that are available, and so I think that, it is really, it makes really the difference. So if we look at the Chinese model, China today is really leading on AI research. So if we look at the number of papers on AI, the number of citations, the number of conferences in AI, they are much better in the global ranking. For instance, if you think about the first 10 universities, the top 10 universities for research in AI, the first 9 are Chinese, and only the 10th is American, is the MIT in Boston. So, just to give you an idea of how much they are investing.
Wow.
But if we look at the private sector, instead, the situation is the opposite. So in the United States, there are a higher number of startups in AI, the investment on venture capital in AI is much higher, and so they're really probably leading in private investments in AI. And there are now these two models. So the Chinese one, the innovation is more driven by the government. They also have the availability and control over really huge quantities of data that are used to train the AI algorithm. And also, if we think about the regulation, because they already passed 3 AI acts, and all the 3 of them, they are working for the private sector, but not for the government, for the public sector. While instead, in the European AI Act, it's working for everybody, so for private and for public sector. Then if we go to the American model, the innovation is mainly driven by private business, by private investment and private big corporations, the big telcos, the big tech companies that we all know. And it's sort of model based on deregulation, I would say. Mm-hmm. So now they are sort of asking, for a regulation in AI world AI area, but it's a sort of, I mean, they're asking on one side, but on the other side, they know that whatever regulation will come, and I don't believe that there will be a strict regulation in AI in the United States, but whatever regulation will come will not probably affect that much the big tech. It will affect probably the newcomers, and so it will be a sort of new entry-level barrier for the newcomers probably. But if we look at the European model, so Europe, we are lagging a little bit, both in research and also in investment in AI technology and system. And so we decided to focus a little bit on this European vision of AI, which is the trustworthy and human-centric AI, which I love the European vision of trustworthy AI, because I think that we really need to focus on AI technologies that people can trust. To use something, you need to trust it. So it really makes sense. And also on the ethical vision of the European AI systems that should be developed according to this vision. But on the other hand, we are today probably focusing a little bit too much on regulation. And the idea behind this of the European Commission is that maybe we will be able to set some standards on AI regulation globally, like we did with the GDPR. But I think that today the situation is very different, because on one side we really have this huge investment in China and United States, that they're much more advanced than Europe in artificial intelligence. And so leading in regulation while you're not leading in innovation, I think that's probably,
that's a great point.
That's a big problem, that one.
Manu, I know you're doing a lot in AI. Tell me about it.
Okay, so I'm wearing several hats, I would say. So one of the things that I like the most is Pop AI. Pop AI is this association which I founded several years ago, and the idea was to make AI pop, popular, accessible to everybody. And the reason why is because, I really understood a few years ago how much AI would have changed our life. And people, they were not understanding it. And so I was like, we really need to bring AI into the society, to teach people how to use it, to raise awareness on the risk and how to mitigate them. And so we organize lots of activities on AI diffusion. We teach AI and for general public, and also we work with companies. Then I work with AI policy, and I work with some multinational, and we support them in understanding which are the different AI policy in Europe and in other parts of the world, like in China, United States, and we support them in understanding them and becoming compliant with these new policies that are coming globally on artificial intelligence, and also on the other tech, not only artificial intelligence. Then I'm involved in several European AI initiatives. So I'm part of CLARE. CLARE is the Confederation of Laboratories of Artificial Intelligence Technologies, and we started a few years ago. We are the biggest community of AI experts in the world, and we started a few years ago, and we are really pushing the concept of the CERN of AI. We think that, for Europe to be able to lead in innovation and to be able to promote this European AI vision of trustworthy human-centric AI, there is a need to create a sort of big center where there are researchers studying AI, industry working with the researcher and developing new AI system from which, the entire humanity could benefit from this. And then I'm part of this European initiative called ADRA. ADRA stands for AI Data and Robotics Association, and ADRA is the private partner of the new PPP, the Public-Private Partnership with the European Commission. And together with the European Commission, we are building the European ecosystem on AI, data, and robotics. And in the next few days, I will be nominated president of this new initiative, ADRA.
Congrats. And I also know you've been in London recently, right?
Oh, yes. Yes, I participated to several initiatives. There was the Tech Week and also the AI Summit. It was very interesting, lots of very interesting, exciting discussion.
And they decided to invest.
They are already investing a lot, I have to say. So UK, it's the third country in the world for private investment in AI. they are doing very well. They decided probably they want to lead also. They also said, like China, like United States, like everybody, that they want to become the new AI superpower by 2030. So there is sort of this AI race globally. But what was very interesting last week is that the Premier Sunak, he announced that he would like to run a sort of AI safety summit in London or in UK by the end of this year. And this is because there is lots of discussion today about the need for regulating artificial intelligence, or the need to develop artificial intelligence that is safe, that it's protecting citizens, the people. And so I think that they are trying to take this leading role, even if this is quite funny because UK is very similar to United States. When it comes to regulation, they use more sort of a deregulation approach, I would say. But when they regulate, and this is what I like of the UK approach, is that they're very vertical. And I think that they really regulate the use of the technology. And this makes sense because you cannot regulate the technology. You need to regulate the specific use of technology. So if they do something about it, I think that it will be very useful, and probably they will be able to do something that is kind of globally accepted, maybe.
I know you have kids. We met in Dogliani at the Festival della Televisione event. Very nice. Have they used ChatGPT?
Oh, yes, indeed. So I have 3 kids. They are 9, 13, and 15. And they started using it, from the very beginning, from when it was open to everybody. They already tasted it last year when it was still closed, but they started really using it last December. And I remember that at Christmas we were playing with ChatGPT as well. And of course, since every kid is very smart, so they started using it also at school, for the homework. But I think that it's, okay, on one end, you cannot really ban, because I know that in some school they are trying to ban the use of ChatGPT and so on. So I think that when it comes to technology, especially in school, or especially used by the kids, they have to learn how to use it. So it's not that ChatGPT, will substitute the fact that they will write essays or other things. They need to understand that it's a support. It's not, doing the homework for them. But on the other end, they need to start using the technology, because technology will be more and more part of their life. And so probably, the way, the technology are used in school, I think it will transform, the way the educational system probably. So there is a need really, for a big change in educational system today.
So basically you have 3 prompt engineers in the house.
Yeah, kind of, yes, indeed.
Thank you, Manu. It is very useful to hear from an expert what is happening, especially in the part that I really normally don't understand by myself. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. I hope to see you soon again.